Good afternoon, Namaste. This is Dr. Uma Kiduvital, Faculty of Agricultural and Veterinary Sciences, Jayoti Vidyapeeth Women's University, Jaipur. As you know, I'll be taking the Metabolism and Bioenergetics course this semester. And in the previous sessions, we were looking at glycolysis and Krebs cycle. And in the previous session, just in the previous session, we have looked into the pentose phosphate pathway that can provide the base materials, the building blocks for various anabolic pathways, like for the production of aromatic amino acids or for nucleotide synthesis and all. The HMP shunt will be providing the base building materials. And also the HMP shunt or the pentose phosphate pathway that gives the NADPH for the cell for regulation of various redox pathways and various signaling pathways. It's not NADH but NADPH that is much more important in terms of the regulatory mechanisms of the cell. Now in this session we will be looking at pathway that is very similar to the Krebs cycle, the citric acid cycle, but it is found only in plants and in certain microorganisms, and that is known as the glyoxylate pathway. So it's very similar to citric acid cycle, but there is a difference in here that in citric acid cycle, one oxaloacetate is used and that oxaloacetate is regenerated at the end of this. But if we are going through glyoxylate pathway, that results in the formation of oxaloacetate, and that can supply extra oxaloacetate to the cell for production of glucose as such, and for other metabolic pathways also, for other anabolic pathways also. There are various pathways in which oxaloacetate is used, and this can provide oxaloacetate for this, and this production of glucose from oxaloacetate. So that is again, it happens in plants and in bacteria and certain fungus, but it doesn't occur in mammalian system. However, it's important in this way that this is one of the pathways through which if there are any other sources of acetate that can be converted into glucose and stored as such. So that is the relevance of the glyoxylate pathway. Now, if we were to look into the details of the glyoxylate pathway, so it is, as I said, the variation of the TCA cycle, and it's an anabolic pathway. That is, it is something that provides the building blocks for building up of higher molecular weight products rather than the breaking down of compounds, and it centers on the conversion of acetyl-CoA to succinate for the synthesis of carbohydrates. So in the citric acid cycle, there is the isocitrate to alpha ketoglutarate conversion, where there is a oxalosuccinate that is formed, and that is what is the base compound for the glyoxylate pathway. So if we were to look at the glyoxylate pathway as such, so I'll share the screen with you. So this is the glyoxylate pathway. So as you can see, it's so similar to the citric acid cycle, but what happens is acetyl-CoA releases the coenzyme A and gets combines with oxaloacetate to form the citrate, and then it forms the isocitrate. So then what happens is, over here, the isocitrate gets converted into succinate and glyoxylate, and the succinate can actually get converted into fumarate and then to malate and then back to oxaloacetate and continue with the normal citric acid cycle. And that is the citric acid cycle, where the oxaloacetate that was used over here will be regenerated to form the oxaloacetate back again. But over here, then this glyoxylate will again combine with another acetyl CoA when there is excess acetyl CoA present. Now, as you know, if there is a lot of alcohol consumption and all, the acetyl CoA levels and the ketone levels of the body will increase. So there will be a lot of acetyl CoA. So when in bacteria and in plants, when this acetyl CoA levels are high, then it can use this glyoxylate pathway and combine with another acetyl CoA to form malate. And this malate will again be converted to oxaloacetate using malate dehydrogenase. So that is the process of glyoxylate cycle. So with this, using 2 acetyl CoA, there will be 1 oxaloacetate that is produced, and that is so its similarities with TCA cycle is in this, that if you want to see better image for this one, it will be something like this. So there is the oxaloacetate that combines with acetyl CoA to form citrate, then the isocitrate. Then isocitrate lyase enzyme will actually make it into 1 glyoxylate and 1 succinate. So the glyoxylate will add 1 acetyl CoA to it and become malate, and the succinate will get converted to fumarate and to malate. So there will be some total of 2 malate produced, and so there will be 2 oxaloacetate. And now the excess oxaloacetate is used for gluconeogenesis process. Gluconeogenesis will be covered in the next session. So this is what glyoxylate pathway is meant for, like the production of oxaloacetate in order to produce excess oxaloacetate and thereby form glucose from it. So the glyoxylate cycle actually bypasses the steps in citric acid cycle where carbon is lost in the form of carbon dioxide. If you remember, the 2 steps where this carbon is lost is in the formation of after isocitrate dehydrogenase formation and then the oxalosuccinate formation. After that, 1 carbon dioxide is formed when alpha ketoglutarate is produced, and then the next carbon dioxide is lost when succinate is produced. So over here, actually, these 2 steps are bypassed, and then this is bypassed with the help of the enzyme isocitrate lyase, and then this oxaloacetate can be converted into phosphoenol pyruvate, and the enzyme that deals with it is the phosphoenol pyruvate carboxykinase. So that is the starting step for gluconeogenesis. So why this function, what is the relevance of this in organisms? So in plants, the glyoxylate cycle occurs in glyoxysomes. There are separate organelles for that. So this cycle actually allows seeds to use lipids as the source of energy during germination. So there are all these plant seeds that we use for oil production. No? like mustard or sesame or even coconut. It contains so much of lipids. So it contains all the stearic acid and oleic acid and palmitic acid, and all these lipids are in these nuts. So they need to actually use these lipids, and then these lipids will be digested and acetic acid will be formed. And once this acetic acid is formed, then it can be converted back into glucose, and then it can be used for the normal glucose oxidative pathway and the TCA cycle. So that is then it will undergo like Krebs cycle, and then ATP will be produced from it through the electron transport chain. So that is what in plants its purposes. But in pathogenic fungus, like the main enzymes, the isocitrate lyase and the is greatly increased upon contact with the human host. So in pathogenic fungus, actually this the glyoxylate pathway is a virulence forming factor. Like when it's coming into contact with the host, in order for it to colonize in the host and establish itself in the host, for the pathogenic fungus, this glyoxylate cycle actually acts as a trigger. So that is the relevance of glyoxylate cycle in pathogenic fungi. Now, when it's coming to vertebrates, so it was once thought that vertebrates will not be able to perform this cycle because isocitrate lyase and malate synthase, the two enzymes, the first one that lyses the isocitrate to form oxaloacetate and to form glyoxylate and succinate, and also the malate synthase by which the glyoxylate combines with one acetyl CoA to form malate. These two enzymes are not actually present in many vertebrates, but actually in liver tissue of chickens and all, it has been shown that components of glyoxylate cycle are present. So it's actually still a very contentious claim. Like there are certain experiments that refute this claim because it could be simply excess of oxaloacetate present, and gluconeogenesis is present in chicken liver also, like it's present in vertebrate liver as well. So these things. So there's a lot of dispute going on in this. There is also a report that glyoxylate cycle is active in hibernating bears. So like malate or beta methyl malate synthase of mitochondrial origin. So that is expressed in kidney, and vitamin D is supposed to regulate this pathway, but its relevance as such in vertebrates is not known so far. So now let us come into the regulation of this glyoxylate pathway, like what all inhibits it, what all activates it. So for activation as such, excess acetyl CoA, the presence of excess acetyl CoA, excess lipids that can be that can generate acetyl CoA, those are all the things that will activate glyoxylate cycle. And what inhibits glyoxylate cycle is when there is a shortage of acetyl CoA. So then under such circumstances, actually, because there is a loss of energy production in the glyoxylate cycle, because if you remember, the CO2 releasing steps also produce NADH. And also the succinyl-CoA to succinate conversion step also produces 1 GTP. So if we are taking into account these two, then for 1 acetyl-CoA, that is and glyoxylate cycle also uses 2 acetyl-CoA instead of 1. So for these 2 acetyl-CoA, what is happening is we are having a loss of 4 NADPH and 2 GTP molecules. That is happening. And so there'll be like 4 into 3, 12 plus 2. There is a sum total of a loss of 14 ATP for each, for the 2 acetyl-CoA molecules that have been consumed. And so actually glyoxylate cycle is also being targeted, whether because it was shown that that is activated and that adds to virulence. So if that can be inhibited in any way in the pathogens, then that can lead to less virulence. So also if we can this pathway is also a target for attempt like modification and production of transgenic animals, because glucose is a limiting factor for in sheep. So if the lipid in them can be utilized in order to produce excess glucose through the gluconeogenesis pathways, then the wool will be of there will be excess wool and better quality wool will be produced in sheep and all. And then so for that, recombinant E. coli has been produced that encodes for isocitrate lyase, and then various recombinant DNA technologies have been used in order to, are being used in order to produce transgenic sheep, which have the ability to utilize this glyoxylate pathway to the maximum ability and thereby utilize the stored fats. Now, this is also another, this has got a lot of clinical relevance also. So because this pathway, its inhibition, if we can actually inhibit the activation of glyoxylate pathway when the pathogenic fungus or bacteria are coming into contact with the host body. So those are all things on which research is going on at present, even though nothing conclusive has come out of it so far. So that'll be it for the glyoxylate cycle. In the next session, we will be looking at glycogenolysis. So the lysis of glycogen in the cells. So that will be the topic for the next session. That will be all for this session. Thank you. Have a